Hello, it's Jesse. We're back. It's been a minute. We're talking about 3.25, that is Path of Exile's league that is launching just a couple days from now. It is Wednesday. The league launches on Friday afternoon for me in Central Time. And it looks to be a great league. I think a lot of people have already given a lot of positive feedback. And so I'm not here to give a full overview of that. If you want to look it up, Settlers of Kalguur looks great. I just wanted to talk specifically about slams and the melee archetype because I've made a lot of content about that in the past. I consider it an area I'm most interested in and an area have more expertise. I've made past videos about how slams were extremely undertuned, especially the numbers on the skills. And so the very first thing I wanted to mention is they actually buffed these skill gems, which is miracle upon miracles. Because frankly, it should have been done like a full year ago, maybe more. Some of the skill gems were so awful, tragically bad. I think it's just like a bad understanding of conceptually of skill gem balance that it took them so long to change numbers. Because I don't think changing numbers is that hard, but maybe it is hard. I don't know. I know that Mark said, balance is hard in the Settlers of Kalguur video. They even confessed that they don't know 100% of how the league is going to look balance wise because they've made a lot of changes. And I totally get that, and I know it's totally tough, but there are definitely some skill gems that they basically gave double damage to. And what's crazy, and I'll talk about this in a second, is I think some of the skill gems that they gave double damage to might still be bad and might still be much, much, much worse than good performers from past leagues. So we'll talk about that. But the fact that they changed the numbers at all, I'm a happy camper. I love it. I'm so glad that they made so many big changes to skill gems. There were a bunch of different ways they could have fixed the problems of low damage because slams the past few leagues have had terrible, atrociously low damage, especially compared to something like a minor. Just F tier damage for basically every single slam build in the game. And so, bully for this. And they removed the totems. And so, for those of you that didn't know, melee totems were sort of a crutch that had been in the game for a long time. And, ancestral war chief, Veil ancestral war chief, gave you a temporary, 30-40% more damage or something. And an ancestral protector gave you more attack speed, is pretty substantial buffs. In fact, substantial enough to where the Panopticon node on the tree was usually the absolute best DPS node on the entire skill tree. That's not the case anymore. They simply deleted these totems entirely. In all the preview videos, you saw dead totems. They just deleted them. And so what that does is that basically takes away, depending on the build, anywhere from 20% to like 35% more damage from every single melee build in the game. So as a result, they buffed every single melee skill gem by, anywhere from like 50% damage to like 100% more damage on every single skill gem. And so the less gem pressure is a huge, huge thing because the ancestral totem shenanigans often cost 4 skill gem slots. And these are very valuable on any character, not to mention the number of extra buttons you had to push. So I love that huge, huge change. Bully for slam builds, very excited. But from a numbers standpoint, from a damage standpoint, I do want people to remember and respect the fact that those totems were a significant portion of like POB numbers for old slam builds. If you look at an older Void Forge, whatever, or of but especially old variants of Earth Shatter, which, I mean, I played EQ of amplification. I played all kinds of weird stuff, janky stuff, and the totems were critical to reaching decent numbers. And so taking those away is like you know, to be clear, is like a nerf numerically. So the new pressure, in my opinion, that these slam builds and melee builds have is not as much skill gem pressure. The new pressure is 100% on the skill tree. I'm going to go to the skill tree. This is the latest of Path of Building here. So bottom left side of the tree, they've made a ton of changes. And specifically, they've added reworked rage nodes. They've added a bunch of really strong impale nodes. I think there's an impale node over here where you have a whole additional impale. Yeah, this one. Then they have some of these nodes got major buffs that they seem like you can't miss these. And then they have banner nodes. Where are the banner nodes? They have banner nodes. And then, of course, we'll talk about this too. They added a bunch of Warcry nodes, new Warcry nodes that have not been in the game before. And they've added, yeah, a bunch of these kind of clusters. Okay. Well, bully for slam builds again. Very excited to have more tools in the tool belt and more options. Oh, wait, there's more. They added some more max resistance nodes, and they added some mana cost related nodes and like mana leech nodes. There's one over here somewhere. Yeah, reduced cost of attack skills. It's that kind of thing. And yeah, the trying to make a tree, I think, is a very, very different thing than what it used to be. And I think the skill point pressure is frankly like insane. You do not have enough skill points to get the bare minimum for your quality of life in this game. So I think that's the new weakness of this archetype. A lot of streamers and people are saying that this is going to end up being like an A tier build. It's going to be very strong, you know, maybe one of the best builds. I know a lot of hardcore streamers are league starting slams of some kind. I think Ben is, and I think Alkazir is starting Sunder, and then they're going to switch to something, you know, Earth Shatter or whatever. And then a lot of people are recommending this ground slam, which I played last league. And we can even go into my character and take a look. But I I have some major caveats and not doubts, but caveats for people who are interested in playing slams who've never played it before. I know some people are advertising the Earth Shatter auto slam playstyle with the auto exert. But in general, these builds have some defensive problems based on the playstyle. So defensive playstyle problems, yeah, how do I begin? I've made a past video about how melee in this game is fundamentally weak because of bosses similar to the Maven, where they move around the arena and they have the spinning electric thing or whatever. You basically need to be on top of them to deal your damage. But if you are able to throw mines or throw totems out, you don't have to. Or, for example, if you have a damage over time build or a brand build, you don't have to worry about your play style, in the sense that you can basically just be defensive and dodge and worry about not getting hit. A slam build, you have to worry about dealing your damage. You have to worry about targeting. You have to worry about dodging the mechanics while also being very close to the boss, dodging their attacks, and all this kind of stuff. They nerfed determination. And I don't think that these extra points that all these points do to me, adding these up here, all this does to me is take away more of my valuable skill points. Yeah, and I don't think that, I think So a lot of slam build, and I know people are talking about the enduring charge buff, but I think that overall, the play style of slams is going to slap a lot of people in the face who are new players are gonna. I think they're gonna get bodied. I think they're gonna die a lot. A lot of these streamers are socketing in blood magic and they're not using the determination skill gem. And I think new players who have not played these builds before, who are walking up to a pack of monsters before they slam, are going to get absolutely dumpstered and are going to struggle because they're going to die so much. They may not struggle with damage. They may look at these skill points on the tree and say, look at this rage, look at this, Warcry effect, look at this whatever. And they may have a great amount of success actually one-tapping bosses. But I think that they're going to be made of glass. I think they're going to be made of paper. I think if you're a new player, it's hard to sell Berserker. And the blood magic thing is such a weird debate too. So mana issues was a terrible problem in the past for slam builds. It was. You had to get Elreon jewelry, which sucks. Nobody wants to do that. I'm going to say this, GGG. I'm going to say it again. I've said it before. The reliance on those jewelry pieces to reduce cost of skills is so trash for this game. It's just bad for the game. Like, you need to find a better way to do resource management. And I'm not suggesting that you do something like, Diablo 4, or you do some weird like generator spender type stuff. I don't know how you solve the problem, but every single in-game path of POB, every single one is going to have either blood magic or multiple pieces of Elreon's jewelry to reduce their cost of Warcries down. And I don't think that's a good solution. I just don't think that investment in a build that's supposed to be like a brute ogre hitting really hard with a big stick, it doesn't make sense that you have to do all this bullshit, jump through all these hoops, and pick all these 15% reduced cost of attacks. That's not even very much. That sucks. It's like not even that good of a node, but you feel like you have to take it. You feel obligated to take it. And it's just, I don't know if this node is that bad or good. I'm just saying, we already have skill point problems, increasing the cost of mana. And so I get why people are going blood magic, but I just think a lot of builds are going to be made of glass. And Warcry builds had pretty trash defenses last league. I can speak from experience. If you didn't go fourth vow, which I spoke about this in a past video, you just don't have a lot of options. You have to go endurance charges. And by the way, there's 2 more skill points. And then there's 2 more skill points up there and down there, and that's more and more skill points that you can't use on something that another part of the skill tree, let's say a miner or something, they're putting those skill points either into defensive points, strictly defensive points, or strictly offensive points. And there's not as much of a need for utility points in that part of the tree. It's like you can just get spell suppression, your defensive points. You don't have to get Warcry speed and whatever other jank you need in order for this to feel playable. So I'm a little bit, I am very, very pro slams. I play them every single league, even when they're terrible. And I'm going to probably continue to play them every single league. But I still think there are one of the problems that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this rework is that I still don't think that slams are the best mapper, the best bosser, the best at ritual, the best at ultimatum, the best delver, the best. I don't think there's a single piece of content in the game that you can say the S tier build is slams. I think that they are okay. I think that they are all-rounder. They're not the most defensive build. Definitely not. They're not the most AFK build. Absolutely not. You need to be paying a ton of attention. You have a ton of buttons to press. One of the things that I wish that they had done I wish that they had improved the base Warcry speed. I wish every single Warcry in the game just had a better cast time from level 1. Right when you socket the Warcry gem in, I wish it had a better cast time. Because the builds are fundamentally slow. And I know GGG said in the video they want to reward players for coming in close to enemies and hitting them themselves. They want to reward players. Okay, well, you don't feel rewarded when, like, we'll see. We'll see. I just don't think that, I think that this is going to be a bit of a debate. That's basically, I'm jumping ahead here. The conclusion here is this is the great debate. I think a lot of new players are not going to enjoy slams. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to love my slams because I've played slams for 2.5 years. But if a brand new player tries to play Earthshatter in red maps and they're in T15s getting absolutely chunked and they're like, what the hell? I have 4 endurance charges. I don't understand why I'm dying. And it's like, well, all the builds you used to play, your very first build you ever played was a brand, I don't know, a fire dot elementalist or something where your enemies, you didn't get hit by enemies. You didn't have to worry about it. It was never a problem. You didn't even have to get close to enemies most of the time. And it's like, well, you know, bad news for you. So, Warcry speed, I already talked about Warcry speed. I really wish that they had just, I don't want to have to invest in 10 skill points in the tree in order to play a Warcry build. Please, you know, and maybe you can get away with only spending 5-6 points in the tree to play Warcries, but it's still, compare it to curses. Curses and marks, you just fucking use them. You don't have to have mark mastery. You can, you don't have to. Curses, you can get curse nodes in the tree. Yeah, it's a nice QOL. You don't have to in order to use curses. If you want to play Warcries, you have to socket skill gems. I mean, skill points. You have to use skill points. It's a commitment. It's like, fuck me. I have to get this wheel. I have to get this node. I have to get these points in order for this build to function at all. Otherwise, you're Warcrying and it's so fucking slow. So I think auto exert might be fun. Maybe auto exert will solve all the problems. And maybe I'm just being a complainer here. Maybe it's like, oh, Jesse, you should just look at auto exert. Auto exert this, auto exert that. I'm like, well, we'll see. So bad POBs, closing this out here. Bad POBs and the rage rework. The bad POBs thing, I looked at some of the POBs from some of the big streamers. Like I looked at Ben's POB, and it's like a great POB, and it has like 12 million Earth Shatter damage or something, right? But if you look at his items, one of the things I want to caution new players on is that Ben can get those items in SSF. He knows how to craft an axe. He knows how to get good gear with health, resistances. He knows what to look for. He knows how to upgrade his yellow items. His rare gear will get upgraded because he's good at the game. He knows what to do. If you are clicking his POB and you click all the nodes that he has in the tree and you just try to play it, you might have a bad time. Because you're probably not going to get an axe that good. You probably have to buy it. You probably have to basically pay someone on softcore trade to get their old axe. And even then you're like, I don't understand why my DPS is only 2 million. It's like, should be enough to clear the whole game, but you forgot that your max hit is only 20k. And then you're getting dunked on there. So it's like, oh, well, I need better armor. Ben has this amazing armor piece. I don't have that. Well, he got it. He got it on like day 2 because he's good at the game and you're not. So I'm like, it's weird that, you know, POBs, especially the ones that have all the skills picked out, they have all the items filled in, they have every single node filled in all the way to level, let's say 95 or 91. And then they have the configuration tab checked, they have the calcs, and even if it's a great player who makes very good hardcore POBs, I think a new player can still get debated, not because of the POB itself, but just because it's level 95. And there's no progression. Nobody's made a slams progression video. Melee progression is something that is like a learned thing. I feel like it took me a year of playing melee builds before I really understood how to upgrade my gear. It's just not the same as a spell build. A spell build is like plus gym level. You know? Melee builds is so reliant on the weapon. It's a very different playstyle. And I think it's a much more difficult experience for new players specifically. So just a caveat on that. Alkazir also, I loved his POB for Earth Shatter. I took a look at his. He has very reasonable gear, you know, like 4 million DPS, reasonable gear. But some of the configs he's checked as well is like he is going to be playing the build optimally. He's going to be using his war cries in the correct order, and not in the correct order, but just at the correct time. And he's basically playing the build optimally. And I think a new player is going to look at his POB and not play it optimally and have a bad time. So it's a little bit of a skill check, I guess. So we'll see. So Rage rework, I don't know what else I can really say about this that hasn't been said by other streamers. I don't think that these nodes are that strong. I know a lot of people are going to start Berserker, and I'm expecting to start it myself just because I'm so committed to the bit. I mean, I'm just dedicated to the bit. I got to do it. But I don't think that these nodes are very strong. Like, I mean, we can make a whole nother video about this ascendancy. This node had 50% more damage. So, I mean, you got to remember you're losing 50% more damage fundamentally. So before you get all excited about the fact that Rage is now a more multiplier instead of an increased multiplier, you got to remember this was a 50% more. So, and I'm just not sure. I don't know how I feel about it. But I'm going to try it out. I mean, you know, because I've played so many freaking Berserkers. I play one every league. I slam every league. I'm committed to the bit. And so I'll tell y'all how I feel about it. But yeah, league start plans here. Final league. In conclusion, long video here. Earth Shatter. I don't have a POB. Don't know what I'm going to do. Probably going to grab Alks. Maybe I'll grab Ben's. Maybe I'll find a different one, and maybe I'll make one my own. I have no idea. But Earth Shatter, I thought about Chieftain. Decided, nah, maybe not. Thought about Jug. Nah, maybe not. I even thought about some of the duelist stuff. Thought about Champion Impale, doing some shenanigans with the new Impale. This Impale node, pretty slept on. It's fucking great. But I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, that's it. That's a long video from me. I hope y'all have a pleasant Wednesday. Goodbye, my dudes.